order.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that, John. Since it is 1:29, according to my computer, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's already been established by the PPACG staff that we have a quorum. I'm still going to go around the room and do introductions virtually, and then we'll hit the folks that are with us online. So my name is Gail Sturdivant. I'm the Acting Public Works Director for the City of Colorado Springs, and we'll go around the room to my right.
Kathleen Collins from CDOT HQ, statewide and regional planning, and planning liaison for Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments.
Scott Skinner, CDOT, transit liaison for Region 2.
The bad breath button, as John calls it. Jeff Guthrie, Region 2 planning supervisor.
Ben Schmidt, Public Works Director, City Woodland Park.
Allison Burns, the grants analyst with Mountain Metro.
Hi, I'm Dawn Collins, the town administrator for the town of Palmer Lake, and I have with me a guest, Stacy DeLozer. He's the interim supervisor for Palmer Lake.
Great. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
John Lusados, PPACG staff.
Janelle Miller, PPACG staff.
Jess Bechtel, PPACG.
Okay, great. Thank you. Going online, I'm going to try to, Abba, if you want to go ahead and do your introductions, I'm going to do it this way I see it on my screen, so bear with me.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Abba Dvavetti. I'm the Deputy City Engineer at City of Fountain.
Okay. Becky?
Good afternoon, everybody. Becky Frank, Town of Green Mountain Falls.
Hey, Darren?
Hi, Darren Horsemeyer, Community Planner at Schriever Space Force Base, and I just wanted to note I will only be on until 2 o'clock. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Darren. John?
John Chavez, interim city engineer for the City of Manitou Springs.
Great. Thanks, John, for joining us. Lachelle?
Good afternoon, Lachelle Davis, CDOT Region 2 Local Agency.
All right, Lindsay?
Lindsay Hawkes, CDOT 2 Region Planning.
All right. Ryan?
Ryan Phipps, City Engineering.
Rosie?
Rosie Jeffries, Controller, AirSage Inc.
Great. Thanks, Rosie. And then Victoria?
Victoria Chavez, El Paso County.
All right. Well, great. Thank you. Hopefully you all had the opportunity to look at the agenda. It looks hopefully manageable time-wise today. But I am going to be looking for a recommendation for approval of the agenda or if there's modifications that are proposed.
Victoria, I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Victoria.
This is Dawn, I'll second.
All right. We have a motion by Victoria, a second by Dawn to approve the agenda as published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Get an agenda. I'm now going to open it up for public comments and or presentations for items that are not currently on the agenda. Jared, I'm going to look to you to see if anyone signed up virtually or in the room to be able to speak. That's a negative. So we are going to I'm going to move on to approval of the minutes. Hopefully everyone had the opportunity to look at the minutes. And if there's any comments, discussions on that, I would take that. Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll make the motion to adopt the minutes. This is Abba.
Thank you, Abba.
Ben Schmidt, second.
All right, so I've got a first and a second to approve the minutes as published. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. All right, the minutes are approved. I'm going to turn it over to the PPACG staff for the Board of Directors report.
So at the Board of Directors meeting this month, we did have a couple of transportation related items. We did have the TIP amendment that was related to the moving of CDOT funds that was approved by the board. We also had the funding recommendations for the FTA contracts that Laura Cruz took to the board, and that was also approved. We also gave the board an update regarding the long-range transportation plan, just the status, kind of an overview. It'd been a while since we chatted with them, so we gave them kind of an overview of what we were doing, where we were, and kind of some of the steps moving forward. And those were really the transportation related items that were discussed.
Okay, great. Any questions for staff? All right, let's move on to item 6A, our first action item on data services. Will, it looks like you're going to be doing our presentation today.
Hello, William Mast with PPACG. Over the last couple of years, we have used the Streetlight Traffic Data Service for a regional license to provide an estimate of traffic counts as well as traffic behavior analysis, origin destination analysis, congestion analysis, and other options. That contract comes to an end this year. And so we want to bring it before TAC to see if we still have interest in continuing a similar data service. If so, we will put out an RFP to have a competitive bid process on different service providers that we can evaluate. In order to continue with the purchasing like we've done in the past, to use STBG funds, we will need a commitment for local match dollars in order to secure that. The previous funding was secured for $290,000. And we need to know if we want to go ahead and continue with that, if we want to increase that, and again, increase the corresponding match requirement. And also are curious if we have anybody interested to sit on the selection committee once the RFP process has been initiated.
I will volunteer 1 or 2 staff members, depending on how many for the review of those proposals.
Yeah, ideally we would have 5. We have at least 2 here at PPACG that can do it. But we'd like to, again, have inclusion from some of our, especially the municipalities or jurisdictions that are using this. So obviously Colorado Springs has been using the service quite a bit. We know El Paso County is using the service quite a bit. And if anybody else would have staff that would be interested in reviewing proposals that uses the service, more the merrier, but we'd like to get at least 5.
Okay. Well, again, the city of Colorado Springs can give you 1 or 2 staff as you need to review those proposals.
It's Victoria. Somebody from El Paso County will also do that. May or may not be me, hoping to pawn it off to somebody else.
Well, the good news is our process is very easy and, can all be done remote. It's a pretty easy process to go through as we do the selection. But to move forward, again, we don't need action at this meeting right now. This is kind of an information item. But if TAC wants us to move forward with this, again, we'll have to have discussions on securing the local match and what the budget should look like, and then we can get that RF this summer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, John.
Yeah, and just for the folks that reverb, don't take the green pills. That are relatively new to TAC. When we did the programming of the last Transportation Improvement Program or TIP document, money has been set aside for this. So if for some reason you decide you don't want to do this, that money would then get reprogrammed. But for now, the money has been excluded from the TIP and set aside for this purpose. So no, you don't have to go back and sacrifice projects to come up with the money. It's already been made available.
Thank you for that reminder. And I think that would be good too, as we start off this RFP process, just a reminder where we have the target budget and what the local match would be required. I would, just a reminder, I believe just the city and county have split the local match in the past, although the data is available to everyone.
That was going to be my question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I wondered when I saw your microphone turn on. All right, any other questions or discussion on this topic? All right, hearing none, I don't believe you needed any action. I think you said that as well. Thank you, perfect. All right, moving on to the LRTP update. Danelle.
For the LRTP, actually, we're going to call Will back up here to give us an update on the travel demand model and the socioeconomic data. But before he chats, just as an update, I did send out to everyone the draft unfunded project list. And that was developed per the TAC guidance from last month. So we did take all of the PPRTA 3B list projects. We cross-referenced any projects that were already in the fiscally constrained list, of course. We also, for those projects in the fiscally constrained list that weren't fully funded, we created a phase 2 project and put that in the unfunded list. And then we also identified a couple of projects. I think there were just a handful of them that were solely privately funded. And they were listed in the fiscally constrained list. I've also included those in the draft unfunded list, but we, as staff, will put those, prefer to have them. I did send out an email just requesting that information back from everybody. I think there were also needed some cost estimates for. And of course, if any of their jurisdictions have additional projects that they would like to submit to be included in that draft, that unfunded project list. Just wanted to let everyone know that that's been out there. And if you need any more information, if you'd like to sit down and chat with us, please let us know. Just looking for everybody's feedback on that as we move forward. I've also included in the memo just a status overview of where everything is. I can read through it if you'd like, but I'm sure you're probably pretty aware of everything. And then I think at this point we can call Will up to chat a little bit about the travel demand model and all of our socioeconomic data.
Please state your name for the record.
Hello, William Mast with PPACG. Are almost complete with the land use forecast and the socioeconomic model. We hired a consultant last year. Unfortunately, that the deliverable was delayed beyond the timeline that we had initially set, and as a result, we started working on things in-house in order to try and get a model put out that we thought would be suitable for the 2030, 2040, and 2050 travel demand model forecasts. That model is complete. We're just wrapping up for 2030 and 2040, and we're just now wrapping up the 2050, the horizon year. We worked with our local jurisdictions to try and come up with this model. What we did is we sat down and looked at really housing build rates for all of the subdivisions in both Teller and El Paso County. And we sat down and pulled entitlements and development plans from all of our local jurisdictions, and including those that hadn't begun yet, and sat down and worked on when we thought some of those developments might kick off, and then compared that with existing subdivisions to get an idea of what build rates would realistically look like. So for example, I think most everybody here is familiar with like the Cordera neighborhood, which is pretty much wrapped up with their development. So we looked at the developers that were putting that together, their typical build rate over the last 10 years of the number of housing units per year, single family and multifamily, and then would apply that to new developments that were being kicked off by them. Same thing with Wolf Ranch and Banning Lewis and all the other major developments. For areas where we had high density multifamily, such as downtown Colorado Springs, we looked at all the new apartment buildings that had entitlements and those that were already starting construction, and made sure that they were included, again, with the multifamily unit counts put in, and then derived the persons per housing unit, essentially how many people we would expect to be in those units based on either the surrounding neighborhoods or those that were very, very similar. So for example, with newer communities that we didn't have good history for, like the Mayberry development out in El Paso County, that's out just east of Schriever. Most of the existing housing development that had gone out there had been like on ranchettes, think like 5 acre, 2.5 acre lots, but this is a very different community, being a master plan community. But looking at the housing prices in the builder, we looked at comparable developments, such as, again, looking at North Banning Lewis and getting an idea of what the persons per housing unit looked like for those developments, and then applied it to those new developments that were coming in. So we did that to come up with a population total and compared it against the control total given to us by the state for 2030, and then continued the growth and started new growth for some of those new developments that were not expected to kickstart until after 2030 and bring them in by 2040. And then we are now, like I said, wrapping up to 2050. We've also done similar for job creation. So looking at the development plans, either in for just commercial developments, but also for all of those residential subdivisions and master plan communities. We looked at the acreage of commercial development and the type of commercial that it was zoned for, whether that's going to be light industrial, warehousing, neighborhood, commercial, and then looked at similar areas around the region to get an idea of what kind of employment density is typically there. So if we see a neighborhood commercial within a subdivision and it's going to be like 12.5 acres, then we would look at other neighborhood commercial, again, in established neighborhoods where we have a King Soopers and a car wash and a vet clinic and things like that, and say, okay, what have we got for employment that's already known? Apply the number of employees per acre to try and match that up to similar development. Same thing for industrial and warehousing. So we're taking, again, what we do know and applying that to the future developments for areas that are going to have really high job creation. We're thinking the development that's going on by the Amazon Distribution Center just south of the airport, for example. That is the Peak Innovation Park, as well as looking out into the future for the Front Range rail depot that's being built next to Fort Carson. A lot of industrial warehouse jobs as well as office jobs are anticipated. So we looked at the estimates that were being conducted by those developers, their own traffic studies and what they were putting in, and then aligning that up with the population would expect for job growth. So that's how it was done. It was a lot of input from our local jurisdictions and their own developments, their own entitlements and master plans, and making sure that we were trying to bring in as much of that information as we could and package it all together in a way that we like to say was a best fit model for the entire region. Yeah, John?
So, so nobody freaks out. I think you said Front Range Passenger Rail is actually the Southern Colorado Rail
Southern
Park.
Colorado, yeah.
It is not the Front Range Passenger Rail. It is
Correct.
the scrap project, Southern Colorado Rail Park. That's
Southern
right.
Colorado Rail Park,
So
correct.
that's what it is. And it's not a depot. It is an industrial park. So
yes,
I know I'm picking at stuff, but I just want to make sure nobody
And
freaks
that's on
out.
my
and
mind
says,
only because we got that email from Aaron at FHWA about the Front Range Passenger Rail, and it's actually what I was just looking at before I came up here. So
nobody freak out.
That is it. Yes.
And I noticed this item on our agenda says provide guidance. Is there specific things that you need guidance on, or you just wanted to give us an update and see if we had questions or any refinement?
I will say we've gone over some specific numbers and specific developments with planners from Colorado Springs Utilities, and El Paso County, which is really where the bulk of the work was happening. The data that was provided to our consultant from Manitou, Fountain, Monument, we really didn't have any changes with that. Most of the changes that were made really pertain to Colorado Springs and El Paso County. So we already met with planners from those jurisdictions to kind of go over what we did in the methodology and address concerns and what was altered. So I don't know that we have guidance at this point related to the socioeconomic or land use forecast, but perhaps in regards to the LRTP, Danelle has something.
I think we've kind of decided to move the LRTP, the standing item from area to the action area. That way, if something occurs at TAC or before TAC that we need to take action on, it's already
Okay,
there.
Great. I just want to make sure there wasn't a specific question that we needed to address. So, if so, I want to make sure that we gave you that input. I did have one other question, and I don't think it's in the land use model, and I don't actually even know if it's in the travel demand model, maybe, but the greenhouse gas modeling, if you could give us an update on that, because I don't see that bulletized on here.
So we haven't submitted it yet, but that is something obviously that we're going to have to submit. So I think one of the reasons that we wanted to give the update on the land use modeling is because we are so far behind schedule. That was anticipated to be done before the end of last year. We are, like I said, just now finishing up our in-house model right now for the 2050 horizon year. And I'm currently putting in all the projects that are in the 2050 LRTP. That is right now going into the travel demand model with those horizon year breakouts that we received from from the TAC and other planners on when we would anticipate those projects going online. So once that is complete and we start feeding all the new land use, socioeconomic, all the jobs into it, where people are going to live into it, and we start getting those outputs we'll deliver to the state and work with the state on how that's going to be evaluated, at which point we'll get an idea of where we sit relative to the GHG compliance measures that we're being evaluated against.
John?
So at this point, you've given, now we're getting the model ready to load that in there. One of the outputs of that will be the travel time. And that travel time is a key input into, I'm old school. It used to be moves, but now it's.
No, moves is what we're using. What we don't know is which version of moves.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, the moves, whatever. Will has gone to a workshop and actually has some access to the software. So we'll be able to sort of run it a little bit and have an idea of where we're headed prior to submitting it to CDOT/CDPHE. Ultimately, one of the questions will be what assumptions were made, and do they sort of jive with the overall intent, right? And that's it won't be the numbers so much that will be in question in that negotiation back and forth between CDOT/CDPHE and PPACG. It'll be, what assumptions did you use to get to those numbers, and are those assumptions appropriate? And are they unique to PPACG, or are they assumptions that were also used and consistent with DRCOG, North Front Range, and CDOT, as they have already gone through this process and developed plans that were approved? So, like I said, at this point, you guys have given us everything we need. It's just a matter of building the model, putting it in there, getting those travel times, and then getting it submitted to our friends up at the state.
I have two kind of follow-on questions then. I know, Will, this model is behind, and you guys have updated us on that in the past. Knowing there's still a lot of work that needs to be done and half the year is nearly gone, how are we looking schedule-wise? And are there going to be other critical deadlines or milestones that we as jurisdictions are going to have to make sure we can get or help stay on schedule?
So again, it's good we've moved this over to the action item. At this point, what'll happen is, if everything sort of models out or shifts right, where we're meeting the GHG targets or our congestion budget, we can submit that. But if we sort of look at it, we already know, hey, this isn't going to work, or that's not going to work. We might come back to you and say, hey, are there what projects do we need to move to make any of this happen, right? So we just don't know until the modeling's finished. And then after the modeling's finished, even if we get past that hurdle, once we submit it to CDPHE/CDOT, they might say, yeah, we don't like this, or we don't like that. We'd like you to relook at it and resubmit. That's the part that's beyond our control. If they get it and they're like, yeah, this is fine. This is jives with everything that's been done. And we're okay with it. Then we'll be in good shape schedule wise, and we might even make, January of 25, which is where the ultimate deadline would sit. That being said, if they come back and say, we don't like this or we don't like that, then we'd have to resubmit. The catch there is that they have 90, not 90 days.
It is 90 days.
They have 90 days to get back to us. So we could submit it. They could wait 90 days and come back and say,
per committee.
Yeah. So we don't like it. You need to resubmit. And if that happens again, all of those things are beyond our control. And so we're doing the best we can. We want to put together something. We are being very deliberate right now. We want to put something together that we think will pass muster the first time, so we don't have to go through it. Because if we rush and we put something that is substandard to what we're looking to do, right, then it's very conceivable that they will just hand it back to us, and it will take even more time. So it's taking longer, but we're making sure it's done right. So hopefully we can get it done right the first time. But again, that's beyond our control. And quite frankly, some of it is very subjective. Hey, I used the word right? Not objective, but it's subjective and we could submit it to them and be very confident in it, and they could be like, no, that's not the way we're thinking, and they can make us change it.
Okay. Maybe just a follow-on schedule question before I get to my other question. I know we were supposed to have this adopted by January, so it does not have an impact on funding that we'd be receiving. But even if we slipped a month or two, what are the deadlines or targets we might be jeopardized for funding in 25?
So what happens is, it's not like cheese or milk, right? It's not like the plan goes bad. If we get to February of 25, our existing 2045 plan is still the adopted plan and is still in full force and effect. However, because the federal regulations say it has to have a 25-year horizon or be no older than 5 years if you're in attainment, 4 years if you're in non-attainment, we are no longer meeting those criterion. So therefore, we will have a non-compliant plan. When you have an, you may not take, you can still use it, it's still good, but you cannot alter it. So that means that we can no longer do TIP amendments. And if this dragged on until July of 2025, we would then probably, I should say probably, my understanding is, and I think I'm pretty right on this, is that we wouldn't be able to adopt a new TIP document. So you really have to sort of, the first and immediate effect would be come February, when you look at the long range plan and the TIP, and if you have all the money you need, you can still obligate projects and you wouldn't see any difference. The problem is if you let the contract and you get bids back and they're like, oh, we need to add 10% more. Let's do a TIP amendment. I'm just going to lift my hands up and go, sorry, we can't do a TIP amendment on a non-conforming plan. So that's the immediate impact. Probably impacts CDOT, El Paso County, and Colorado Springs the most, because you guys have some pretty big projects that are coming up. And as we saw with the last CDOT project, right, bids are not coming in exactly where you'd like them to be.
Right, and I was just thinking about that. I think it may be worthwhile for us to have a look ahead for an agenda item August, September, if we are going to need to make any TIP amendments in advance of issues that could potentially arise. So maybe we can leave it as a standing item. I would say no later than the September meeting. That would need to be an agenda item.
That's a great idea.
Okay. Every once in a while I have one. All right. So now I'm going to go to my second question. And you may tell me that this is probably an offline discussion, and that's fine. I want to talk about air quality or air quality monitoring.
Okay.
And I believe PPACG is gathering data, and it may be even in conjunction with the city of Colorado Springs. That might now be under my responsibility. I don't even know it yet. But where do we stand on this air quality monitoring, and where is our position between attainment and non-attainment? And does it have any play into the greenhouse gas modeling? One, and we already know it would affect the legitimacy or the time frame of having a compliant LRTP.
Okay.
And this could be a topic for next month.
I can answer the second half of that if you want to.
Yeah. So the greenhouse gas is a state rule that is based on modeling, not actual sort of there. And again, there are people who are way smarter than me on this. In fact, Victoria, feel free to jump in because you're the one that sort of explained it to me, right? But some of those greenhouse gas things have precursors that are actually part of the things that are monitored at the CO and stuff like that. So it's not a one-to-one sort of thing. Greenhouse gas is separate, state rule based on models and the assumptions of the models because you're looking for it. While the actual air quality conformity is based on actual monitors. There's one at, I believe, Manitou Springs and the Air Force Academy. Is that correct? Nobody said I was wrong, so we'll say that's correct, right? That's right. So, and that's based on actual data. So right now...
And different data. Like what they're monitoring for the air quality is different than what we are modeling for GHG. That's another big separation there.
Right. But that we have our third highest exceedance is over the limit. The feds will say, okay, you're in non-attainment. So a lot of the things that are going on right now are a majority of the um, ozone in this area, and again, hopefully I got that right because I am far from an expert, comes from background sources beyond our control, right? Wildfires, China, rogue dry cleaning in Canada, you name it, right? All of those things beyond our control. What is in our control and is only like 5% or less, right? And so that has been sort of the approach that's being taken as a region and quite frankly as the state of Colorado amongst the MPOs is, hey, we need some relief from a federal perspective. So we've joined with Arizona, Nevada, basically all the Western states who are in the same position and said, hey, NEPA's great. We're not asking for a lot, but this whole issue of background ozone needs to be addressed because you're basically putting all of the Western United States sort of in non-attainment for things that are beyond our control. And that is a discussion that's going on now at a national level. So I thought I heard your question and I thought I answered it, but you might have been like, no, I wanted you over here. So
No, I think we're okay. I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. And I probably do have follow-ons, but it's very specific that the city that we can have outside. But I think it's a good reminder of kind of where we are on everything. So
I think it would be important just to again reiterate so everyone's clear that when we talk about the air quality conformity, they really are focusing on particulate matter, the PM, specifically usually PM 2.5. But that particulate matter and the resulting ground level ozone is really the focus of attainment. And that's not what goes into the state's GHG rule.
Okay,
so our
that's
GHG is it's completely separate, which is why you can have a plan like Dr. Cog, which complies with the state GHG rule, even though they're not in compliance and getting worse in terms of the air quality conformity. So because they're looking at two very different things. When we do our GHG, like John said, that GHG compliance that we're going for is to take a project list in the LRTP, the long range plan for a region, and then see, are we doing anything to help try and reduce carbon dioxide equivalent gases from transportation? That's really what they're focused on, and that's strictly through modeling. So they're looking at the average speeds, and they're looking at traffic volume and the typical vehicle hours traveled. And they're putting all that together and saying, based on the number of cars, based on how long they're on the road, based on their average speed, effectively, we would expect all those cars to be producing in terms of carbon dioxide equivalent. And it's a whole separate process from the particulate matter being measured for air quality conformity.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions for Will or anyone else working on the LRTP? Appreciate that.
Okay.
I appreciate, great answers for being put on the spot. So well done. All right, we're going to move on to item 7A, tip updates, a standing item. Anything for the PPACG staff to report?
Only tip updates I have right now are we are getting ready to do roll forwards into this tip into the next year, and then the new tip will go into place soon. So we're doing that kind of all at the same time. So I might reach out for a little bit more specific information on obligated funds, but that's all I have for now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to item 7B, CDOT updates. I'm going to look to the folks that are here for Kathleen first.
Hi, this is Kathleen. The big news is that the Transportation Commission did decide on some of the changes related to the TPR boundary study. They did decide to table the discussion on the boundaries themselves until November's meeting. So the TPR boundaries until they have more time to discuss it. There was some changes related to encouraging limited service of stack chair and vice chair, their term limits. We have an email that we can share with folks, but anyway, we're still waiting on the final decision on the TPR boundaries. And that's something that we've been really looking forward to getting. So, but we will get it eventually.
Okay.
Jeff, you listened in on it, so I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, thanks. I'm anxiously awaiting for November.
Is that it then, Kathleen?
I think that's the big news from HQ this month right now. So, that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Scott,
Gail?
did you have anything? Oh, yes, ma'am.
I would like to ask
There's
a question
I'm sorry.
about
I'm glad you
that.
said so. Go ahead, Victoria. We can't hear you very well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll talk louder. How's that? So Jeff, since you sat in on the meeting, was it just we want to deal with this later, or were there any thoughts, considerations, is El Paso County at risk of getting put back together? Are we still looking to stay split? Can you give me any highlights?
Certainly. It actually, once the agenda item was introduced, then Vice Chair Commissioner Terry Hart from our neck of the woods immediately spoke up to recommend the language changes that I can hopefully highlight from this email from headquarters that Kathleen alluded to, the stack leadership, the rotational schedule between the chair and vice chair. And then immediately following that was another motion to table these proposed rule changes. So there honestly was not that much discussion today, Victoria. I also had to turn off because of family friends in town, company in the house. But I was able to watch the workshop yesterday up until close to 5 o'clock, and they had not gotten to any discussion about these proposed boundary changes by that point in the workshop yesterday. So I am not a fountain of information about this other than it was very quick to move to table.
Interesting. Thank you.
I plan on watching the recording since I wasn't able to attend. So, and that should be, I believe that will be posted on the website too for people to look at, where the YouTube will be.
Great, thanks. Scott, anything you would like to add?
Just Senate Bill 230 got passed and signed. That is for the $3 a day for oil, or not $3. It's the tax on oil and gas. That just got passed. It's estimated to be 110 to 140 million dollars in dedicated funding for transit projects and everything. Hopefully everything goes well. I know there was some rumblings about litigation between oil and gas and all that, but yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave that.
Okay. Jeff?
I just quickly thank you to all the participating jurisdictions that have met with us and PPACG staff over the past couple of weeks to talk through these roll forwards and project status updates. That's much more helpful than you can possibly imagine. So we're very ready. Thanks, Jess.
All right. And then Michelle?
I don't have anything today. Thank you.
And is there somebody else from CDOT on that would like to give an update? I don't think that there was, but I just wanted to double check. I'm looking at the list again.
This is Lindsay Hawkes with CDOT. I just want to echo what Jeff said, and it's been a pleasure to work with Jess on working on the TIP and the STIP, and it's a pleasure to work with her. So thank you.
Okay, great. And Phil, it looks like you've joined us. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Nothing from me, but thank you.
All right. I think that was it from CDOT. We're going to move on to item 7C, the IIJA standing updates. I know.
Yes. So we did just in the past day, I think we sent one out today and one out yesterday, a couple of webinars related to some funding sources. I believe yesterday's was related to Safe Streets for All, and today's, the webinar we sent information on today was related to SMART grants. We are looking at, if you haven't spoken with Karen Rowe, who's our regional grant navigator, she's looking at potentially putting together a package proposal for multiple jurisdictions within the region for bridge projects. So if you haven't chatted with her, I think she's chatted with somebody from every jurisdiction multiple times, but if you would like to be part of that jurisdiction or that discussion, please let us know.
And can I just add on to that, just so you're aware, and I did meet with Karen this morning, We think it's a great idea, but the city of Colorado Springs won't be participating. That just because we already have our own bridge investment programs. We've already have one award. We already have another one in. But if you're a smaller jurisdiction, I would encourage you to look to see if you have any bridges that are eligible underneath this. On the off-system bridge program, you can see that list pretty easily. I'm looking, I know Green Mountain Falls has specifically talked to me about their one bridge that they have that's eligible, and they desperately are in need of some funding. So I would encourage you to work with her and see if there's things that she could do, help putting together more regional grant program. And I did mention to her, since we've been successful getting grants underneath that program, we could provide some guidance, some maybe expertise, but the city will not be participating.
Before you move on, do you mind just updating everybody on the certified safety action plan and where we're at? And they're all signed in. So
Yes, absolutely. So the Safe Streets for All grant that was won by Woodland Park, and PPACG is helping coordinate that, of course. The grant agreement has been awarded, and we're working on the RFP that should be put up fairly shortly. I think we have some questions that we need to send out to FHWA just to confirm before we actually put out the RFP, but that should be coming shortly. And actually, we were hoping to chat with Gail, with you, or with Colorado Springs just for a few minutes, perhaps after TAC too.
Yeah, that would be great. I believe Carrie, who's here in the room, actually worked on it, and the RFP is out right now.
Okay.
With the same plan.
Perfect. Thank you. Other than that, I did send out the memo with the existing NOFOs and the upcoming NOFOs. The Colorado Energy Office does have their Fleet Zero opportunity out right now. Other than that, I think pretty much everything we've either discussed before or you've seen before. But if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like more information about, please, again, reach out to us. And I know that Karen's been very active and is really trying hard to help the region secure some more funding.
All right. Any questions on IIJ or other grants? All right, we're going to move on to member entity announcements. And then I'm also going to combine that with item 9 if there's future TAC topics. I will kick that off and then open it up as we go around. As I mentioned, I want to make sure we have that tip item starting later in September if we need to, at least as a check-in. Probably an offline discussion is more air quality monitors, but not for like another month or so because I'm getting some more information on where we are with our particular equipment. And then just so, Victoria, this one's going to impact you. I will not be available at the June TAC meeting, so that falls in the first chair. And so Victoria will be leading it, and then you will hear here in a little bit when it gets back to PPACG staff that meeting will be 100% virtual anyway, but that is coming, and I'm sure you'll talk more about those meetings coming up. And I think that's it for the city of Colorado Springs. Going around from the park.
We don't have any additional member announcements.
Okay, great. Anything from transit?
I don't think so. I don't know what land updated last. We have our order in for our hybrid low-no vehicles. So we're moving along and those have been put on schedule. So next year we'll receive them. Right? Yeah. The 2050 regional and specialized plan is moving along. I think we had some open houses and some virtual open houses this last week, maybe one tomorrow as well. And that's all I can think of.
Great. Thanks, Allison. Anything, Dawn?
No, nothing specific to report.
Okay. And is Stacy going to be here more frequently or to be determined?
To be determined. Yes,
okay.
But yes, we'll
We've scared him away. I'm worried. All
no
right.
Worries.
And Stacy, if you do come, the new person always brings ice cream. Just saying.
Right after they bought lunch, but he forgot to mention that part. All right. Abba, anything from Fountain?
Nothing at this point. Thank you.
All right, Victoria.
So we do have our final draft of the Major Transportation Corridor Plan on our website, 2045mtcp.com. would be very appreciative if anybody would like to sign on there or send me an email telling me they participated in the process and are supportive of our document. We're looking to go to the Planning Commission in early June.
Thanks, Victoria. Yes.
Victoria, can you say the website again, please? Sorry.
mtcp.com.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Victoria. And then John, Manitou, anything?
Yeah, I'll just mention this is probably my last meeting. The city of Manitou Springs hired a new city engineer 2 weeks ago. His name is Andrew Moran, and I'm pretty sure he'll be the ones attending from now on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Did I miss any other jurisdictions? I know, oh, Becky, I see you're on there. Anything you would like to add?
Just want to really express our gratitude to Karen for her helping us strategize how to address our bridge project.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Great. Any other jurisdictions that I might have missed? I know we had a couple folks join us, so I think we hit the member governments. All right, so hearing nothing else, then I'm gonna call this meeting adjourned at 2:15. Oh, wait a minute.
You said you were going to come back to me, so I was
Oh,
being
you're right.
quiet.
I'm sorry. There's something very important on the list that John needs to talk about, and then we need to provide clarification for the next meeting. Then we'll adjourn.
So those of you who are here, this is actually not too bad heat-wise, but if you've been in this building the last couple of months, you've already known we have an HVAC problem. And actually for staff, it's been about 84 degrees in the building up until today. It just got a little better. Anyway, they are going to be shutting down the building come, I think, Monday, June 17th. And it's still, even with shutting down the building, it's going to be an 8-week process. So they're going to come in and pull out pipes and things like that here in the first floor for the first part, and then they're going to go up to the second floor. The bottom line is we have been instructed that the building is going to be pretty much unbearably hot. Go figure, July and August in Colorado Springs, but it'll be just too hot. So we're going to move all of our meetings to either different venues or different locations. Hopefully, we are thinking for the TAC, you all would not be too terribly upset if we just went 100% virtual. So our recommendation to you is just, we're going to go 100% virtual for the July and August meeting. And do you want to do June as well?
You have to do the June one because they're starting on that Monday.
Okay. So we'll go, so June, July, August, we'll just go completely virtual unless one of you is like, oh no, we really need to meet in person because your wit's not the same over the internet, John. So we'll do that. But if anyone has any questions or concerns, let us know and we can talk through it. But that's our plan. Because some of you also attend the board of directors meetings, those will have to switch locations, but our intent as an organization is still to do those in person. So I think Jared is feverishly looking at another location, but one of the rubs is, we also have to move the PPRTA meetings. So we want to make sure we find a PPRTA member that can also host the PPACG board of directors since they're the same day, one after another. So that's being worked on. So again, if you attend a lot of our meetings, if you're one of the PPACG groupies, TAC and CAC our intent is to have those be 100% online. Some of these other meetings that are going to end up being moved someplace else. So just sort of keep in the loop and if you need to attend a meeting, whether or not it's in person or not. But I think, Jared, we will always have the virtual option available, even if it's at a different location. And he's nodding his head. So as long as you go to the link, you'll be able to always check in with Zoom. So is there any questions on that?
John, not a question. I have a contact for somebody in El Paso County, like at Acres?
No,
We
they've
have a,
already been, Victoria, they've already
oh, okay, never mind then. I was gonna
It-
try and help.
been, yeah, they are either at Centennial Hall or they're at the service center. You just need to wait for the formal schedule and things like that.
See, Gail knows things I don't even know. So
It's mostly, I know this only because of the PPRTA stuff, and I
Okay.
still might have a problem with the PPRTA CAC, but the board meetings go along with the same board meetings as PPACG.
so they'll
those-
be at El Paso County, but just not Acres. They'll be
Right,
either downtown here or there. Okay,
right,
cool. And thank you, Victoria. Appreciate the offer.
yeah. Anything else before I call the meeting to adjourn? Because I was so close to 45 minutes. Oh, you're killing me.
I know, but just real quickly, if anybody else is hard of hearing, I don't know if you noticed, but I've hearing aids on. They just put in a telecoil thing. That's that little symbol on the pillar there, that blue thing. So I've been doing the meeting where it picks it up and sends it right to the hearing aids. It's really kind of awesome because I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get sort of reverb. It's going to be too loud. So if anybody else, even if you don't have hearing aids where you can send them directly there, there's some hearing devices back there that you can check out with Jared. So if you ever at this meeting and you're like, or at a board of directors meeting and you're like, oh, I can't really hear very well. We do offer that and they do work very, very well. So now you can adjourn the meeting.
Wait, are you sure?
I don't know. I didn't hear that.
All right, it is now 2:20. I call this meeting.
Thank you. Have a great day.